The case of the Senate of the Philippines versus Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea and Secretary of Health Francisco Duque III examines the constitutional limits of legislative inquiries and the separation of powers between the executive and legislative branches. Let's break down the facts, the issue, and the Supreme Court's ruling. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Philippine government allocated 77 billion Cuban pesos to the Department of Health, DOH, with 37 billion Cuban pesos specifically for personal protective equipment (PPE). However, a Commission on Audit (COA) report found discrepancies in the use of public funds, prompting the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee to investigate DOH's budget utilization and procurement processes. While DOH Secretary Francisco Duque III and other executive officials initially attended the hearings, President Rodrigo Duterte, through Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea, issued a memorandum on October 4, 2021, barring executive officials from further attending the inquiry. The president argued that continuous participation was hindering government operations and that the inquiry had shifted from legislative purposes to identifying potential criminal liability, which was already covered by existing laws. Following this, executive officials stopped attending hearings, citing the president's directive. The Senate challenged the memorandum before the Supreme Court, arguing that it obstructed their constitutional power to conduct inquiries in aid of legislation under Article 6, Section 21 of the 1987 Constitution. Did the president's memorandum violate the separation of powers by preventing the Senate from conducting its investigative duties? The Supreme Court dismissed the Senate's petition, ruling that the case was prematurely filed. The court held that the Senate had an internal remedy under its rules of procedure governing inquiries in aid of legislation, which required it to first resolve the jurisdictional challenge before seeking judicial intervention. The case did not present a justiciable controversy at the time of filing, as the Senate had not exhausted its legislative remedies. The court reaffirmed the principle of separation of powers, noting that disputes between co-equal branches must be resolved using procedural mechanisms available within those branches before resorting to the judiciary. This case highlights the boundaries of legislative inquiries and the need for Congress to exhaust its internal remedies before turning to the courts. It reinforces the separation of powers doctrine, ensuring that constitutional disputes between co-equal branches of government follow the proper legal process.